We've done 2 walk cycles at this point. We've done one on the Chickster guy, we've done one on a character, we've done some poses, we've done an animation, and when we get to this one, we've kind of had a little bit of experience playing around with different ways to set keyframes and different stuff to set up. So what I'm going to give you is I'm going to give you the props for this one. So there's a file called props that's on the canvas. So you'll use that and import it into your scene, and that's what you'll use. And so your character will have several different items here. You only have to pick up one item, and depending on what item you want to pick up is obviously going to change how that happens, right? So you have like a little dumbbell right here they could pick up. There's a coffee cup. There's a wine glass, and then there are some coins, okay? So any one of these items you could pick up. I've had people pick up several of the items. I've had people interact with the items. It's all depending on how you want to do it. I'm mostly looking for here is interactivity, okay? So in this animation, you'll see Andy, this is the Andy rig I used before, picks up the coffee cup and then puts it to its mouth and then sets it back down. Now the biggest thing here is that the coffee cup itself is not animated, okay? I didn't grab the coffee cup and animate its position coming up with it. I literally linked it to the hand so that once it's here, I could grab the hand and move it around wherever I need to, and that coffee cup will go with it. But before Andy grabs it, the hand does not do anything to the coffee cup, okay? So that's the biggest challenge here, is that we want to be able to create this connection between those two items. There's other ways that we could do this. So one way that we could do something like this without doing it the correct way is we could duplicate these items, all right? So I could take like this coffee or this wine glass and duplicate it and have one of these parented to Andy's hand. Okay, that way this wine glass will always move with Andy's hand, and then this wine glass is always on the table. Then I could just simply change the visibility, and that would give it the appearance that it's working. The problem with this is that it's very cumbersome to do that, especially if your character is interacting with a lot of objects. That's a lot of hidden objects that we'd have to unhide. Okay. I also have, for this one, I have a couple different cameras. So I have this one camera here. That's one camera. And then I have another camera. And the idea with these is just to kind of show the same kind of story, but you're showing it in a different way. You're showing it with different movements of the camera. Okay? It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but just keep that in mind that you do have other tools besides just straight animation that you're dealing with. Going back to the 12 principles of animation, the appeal, the solid drawing, the way that we're presenting the stuff is just as important as the animation itself. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my Homer rig. So I'm going to go and set my project and open up my Homer character set one. Yes, yes, yes. There we go. And we'll just ignore the fact that he's green for some reason again. Oh, because I'm in Maya 2017. So just for now, we'll just color him gray. Perfect. Come on. There we go. Okay. I don't really care what he looks like right now. Alright, so now I'm going to import those props in here. Now when you import stuff into Maya, it actually does import it and lock it into that file. So you don't have to worry about linking it. It's simply imported, ingrained inside this file. Okay. Now I'll see that the items are obviously way too tiny for Homer. He's actually sitting on them. So I'm just going to group them and move them forward and scale them up and try to find a good, reasonable position for these. Okay. I may even need to scale some of these based on my character. So Homer's hands are kind of big. So this tiny coffee cup, or this tiny coffee cup, maybe just too tiny for him. So if I need to increase the size of that, I can do that too. You're free to kind of manipulate these as far as position and whatever else. That looks like a Homer-sized coffee cup. That's a Homer-sized weight. This is one of those unicorn ones from Starbucks. Oh, sorry. All right, and then there's some coins down here too. This is perfect. Okay, just making sure that's still going. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to animate this like he's picking it up, but I'm not going to have him pick it up yet. Okay. So I'm going to go to my character set, and I'm going to get Homer in his default starting pose. Okay. So don't overlook this fact. Don't try to, or this part of it. Don't try to just get into the animation. Actually go through and try to set it up like, you know, he would be standing there. There we go. I'm gonna have him kind of looking off over here first. This way, that way. Let's bring the hands into the side. There we go. So that's how he's starting off his pose. Okay, I can tweak it further if I need to. So I'm just going to set a key. Now the difference in this animation compared to the stuff we've already done is that in the other one, I told you exactly how far these keyframes need to be. When we did the walk cycle, I said we're setting them here, here, and here. When you did your animation, you looked at the reference video and then you saw how far each action was happening. So by now, we've kind of developed at least a way to maybe subconsciously at least, understand how fast things are going to move. If not, we can always count it, right? So if you don't know how long it's going to take for you to grab something, go 1, 2, 3, and I've grabbed something in 3 seconds, okay? So then we could just estimate how long it's going to take. So I'm going to have Homer looking up here, and then he's going to see the drink. So I'm going to assume that's going to be at, like, let's say 50 frames. So now I'm going to swing his head here. I'm going to swing his eyes over this way. There we go. And I'm just going to set a key. So I'm just going to go just like that. Just 50 frames. Like that. Okay. Now, once we get to the end stage of this, remember, I can always go back and move these keyframes. The idea, don't set 1,000 keyframes. Set the poses. You're still setting poses. So then I can go up to here, let's say at 60, and just for fun, I'm just going to take his eyes and just, you know, make these a little bit bigger. Oops. I did not have these in a character set, so I need to make these in a character set. So let me just grab those, and I'll just add these to the character set. So I'm going to go back to 50, reset my keyframe, go up to 60. And then just reset that. Aw, Homer, what are you doing? Right. Apparently did not set at 50, so I'm going to reset these back where they were. Now he comes down. Woo. I'll even have his mouth open a little bit too. And again, these are things that I have to make sure that if I am going to be setting keyframes on his mouth opening like that, that I need to have that as part of the character set. So I'll go back to this, add that to the character set. And the way that I know it's not part of it is because the values over here didn't have any color next to them. If they have color, that means they're part of it. So it looks kind of silly. I can tweak those after. All right. So now he's going to go and grab one. So I'm going to go up to, let's say, 90, and he's going to grab one. There Now he's actually a little bit too far from it. So I can debate whether I want to just take this and move it closer. Oops. There it is. You know, maybe I'll have to adjust some of my keyframes, but it looks like he's still looking at it, so that's good. Or I could just animate him walking closer to it. So now I need to get him to grab this. So I'm going to put his hand pretty close to it and start to put it in the shape of how he would be grabbing this. So his fingers would be closer together so he can fit inside there. His thumb might be outstretched a little bit like that. And I'm going to set a key. So it's going to take him basically a second to get up here. Now he goes through the table and through the cup, but I don't care about that. I'll tweak that later. I'll adjust it. So I'm going to go up to 100 now, which is about 10 frames later, and I'm going to start to curl his fingers in. And I'm going to grab his hand and actually put his hand so it looks like he's grabbing the mug. That's pretty close. I can still adjust the size too if I need to. Yeah, that works pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to set a key on here. Maybe I'll grab his shoulder and just, yeah, a little bit of rotation there. That's good. Okay. All right, so now let me check out my timing. So he looks down, and then he grabs the coffee. So that's pretty good timing so far. Okay. I'll probably adjust his shoulder a little bit too. It looks like it's kind of weird how his shoulder just rotates right at the end. A little bit of shoulder movement there. Cool. Okay. So now I'm going to have him pick it up. Now this way I'm just going to I'm going to animate it like he's picking it up. So I'm imagining he's grabbed it and he's going to pick it up and drink it. So I'm going to go to 125. I'm going to rotate his hand up. I'm going to rotate his head up. I should probably have closed his mouth by now too. Just close this. And his eyes are still going to be looking down at it, so I'm just going to close these a little bit like that. And keep his eyes on the prize. And set a key. Okay. Now for this part, I need to have the cup in his hand because I need to know how far up he's going to go. Okay, but I've animated straight through it. Okay, so he's going to do that. So now I'm going to animate the cup happening. So I'm going to create a locator, and the locators are going to be what we're going to use for this swap to happen. So I'm going to make a locator here on the table. Now I'm going to put it right about the base of the cup. Okay, doesn't matter exactly where it is, but I just want to have it there. I'm going to call this one table locator. I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to put one in Homer's hand. Okay, again, doesn't matter exactly where it's at. I just want it kind of like in the center of his hand so it's really obvious. Homer locator. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically, I want to parent the cup to the locator, and then I want to parent the table locator, then parent the cup to the Homer locator. And I can't do that just by simply parenting. I have to parent constrain. Okay, so under my rigging menu are the constraints. Okay, and we did some of these when we did our rigs. Okay, so I'm going to grab the cup here. I'm going to grab the locator here and then freeze my transform. It's always good to do that. And then for some reason it scales it down, so I'm just going to scale it back up. And then I'm going to shift click my cup and I'm going to say constrain parent. I'm going to say maintain offset. I'm going to say make sure translate and rotate are on, and then hit add. So what this does is it's now locked that cup to the locator. So if I grab the cup and try to move it, it will move, but then it should jump back. I lied. Why didn't you jump back? It should have jumped back. I don't know why it didn't. But I can still grab the locator and move it. Alright, so now this locator, I'm going to do the same thing, but I have to have it parented to Homer's hand. If it's just floating out in the world, it won't work. Okay, so I'm at 54. You'll see the locator does not move with it. So I'm going to take the locator shift click on one of Homer's controls, so like the wrist control, and then just parent that locator to it, and then freeze its transforms, and then scale it back up. There we go. Okay, so now the locator will move with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to parent constrain this locator, or the cup, to that locator. So right here, that's where the swap's going to happen. Okay, so at frame 100, I need to tell it to no longer be parented to the table, but now be parented to the Homer hand locator. So I'm going to grab the Homer hand locator, shift click the cup, and do another constrain. Now it should kind of wig out a little bit. Okay, sometimes it doesn't. Apparently this time it didn't. Right now it will. If I hit play, you'll see how it's doing this. Okay, so what's happening is it's trying to balance the parenting between the two objects, between Homer's hand and the table. So I'm going to go over here, and you'll see that I have, if I select the mug, a table locator and a Homer locator. So I'm going to turn off the table one and leave the Homer one on, and you'll see now he picks it up and there's no problem. So what we need to do is animate this constraint. So I'm going to key it at 100 where he grabs it. I'm going to go back one frame and then just swap them. Okay? So anytime this locator is at 1, that means that the full weight of it is right there. When it's at 0, there's no weight. Okay? So what should happen is right here, the table is controlling the mug, the table is controlling the mug, and right when we get at 100, that's when the swap happens. You can see the two numbers swap places. So right now it's the table, now it's Homer. And so now Homer picks it up. Okay? Now that might be confusing. Do it a couple times. Like even in just a blank scene, just play with separate constraints just to see if you can get it to work. So now he's going to pick it up to 125, and then we'll go to, let's say, 140, and this is where he's going to put it in his mouth. So let's go here. Oops. And for some reason, the rigs do this, where they just don't want to play nicely. I have to like move them a little bit, then set a key, then move them a little bit, then set a key. And his elbow is up too high, so let's put that down. There we go. Okay, so then I need to rotate his neck back a little bit. And scoot it over and move it up. And let's take that shoulder and rotate that up a little bit. And maybe open his mouth a little bit too. There. It's hard to see, but it's right there. So that should be good. So 140, that's where he's at. So he goes, wow. All right, more frames, 250. So now we'll go up to, let's say, 160. He really like leans his head back further. His mouth opens a bit more. And he's really going all out on this thing. Now what we don't want to do is have him just kind of like hit it and then come back. So I'm going to give him about 10 frames of just a little bit of movement. Maybe his upper body goes back a little bit further, like that. His hand is going to come back a little bit further, like this. Okay, cool. I'm going to set a key there. And then we're basically just going to come back to where he's setting it back down. Now here's the cool part, is that we can take these keyframes that we have here and I can just copy them and then paste them in. Because I already have them, so why not? Why not put it back in the exact-ish spot that we got it from? Okay, so now let's check out the animation. Here he is, he sees it. excited about his drink. Grabs it. Sets it down. Nice. Okay, so now I need the swap to happen the other way so his hand is no longer controlling it. So I'm going to go more frames, 300. And then right at 220, I'm going to grab the cup again and do another swap. So I set, I'm sorry, at 221. I'm going to set a key here. I'm going to go up, swap these two values, key it again. And then I can take Homer's hand and put it back on his stomach. So I'm just going to copy frame 50 and put it right there. So now he takes it up, he drinks. Oh, Homer, what are you doing? Poor guy. Let's check our graph editor. Animation, graph editor. This is the new graph editor in 2017, just so you can see that. Yep, see, so I accidentally constrained it or animated it kind of backwards. So let's go and turn our character set off for a second. I'm going to grab the apparent constraint. Select. Yep, so I just forgot to set a keyframe back here at 220. So 0, 1. There we go. Okay, so now we should be good. So now Homer comes in, he grabs his drink, he takes a swig, and he sets it back down. Okay, so now after this point, then it's simply a matter of going through and tweaking where these keyframes are happening. So if I didn't like the speed of something, I could just use my dope sheet. Right? We used this like in our first assignment, and we used it in many of the assignments since. We can just start grabbing stuff and start pushing stuff together, moving stuff further apart, or whatever we need to get the timing right. It feels like the timing is already pretty good there, so I really don't think I need to change much. That feels pretty good. Okay, so then I would do, after I've done my dope sheet stuff, I would then go through and start to tweak all the other stuff that I want to tweak, like his head here just kind of like lazily hitting this there. I'd probably actually want this to happen maybe a little bit quicker, okay, when it comes into this. So I would go to my graph editor, and I'd probably take these maybe up a little bit more so that the action actually happens maybe a little bit quicker. And then Homer kind of has a resting point there. So it just feels like maybe there's a little bit more motion. You can see there's a little bit more motion in him getting into that. And then the same thing with his eyes. I could change the speed so his eyes go a little bit quicker. Then I'd come through and also tweak some of these spots like I talked about where his hand goes through the table. So like right there, I would just grab his hand and just pull it out. Okay, maybe even pull it up just to help him kind of make his way around this. So now his hand's going to come up, go over, and it's not going to hit there. It's going to come a little bit wide, so it's going to maybe open this way. Set a key. Yep, there we go. Now if there's a little bit of intersection there, nobody's going to notice it. It's only if it comes really through, like a lot. I'd probably even scoot this down just a little bit just so it doesn't. There we go. And I want to add some blinking in there too. That definitely adds a nice touch to it. His mouth goes through his shirt here, so I would need to animate his shirt kind of. Oops, that's his mouth. Animate his jaw coming forward or animate his shirt going down or whatever. Okay. Alright, and then once you have that, then just add a camera, nice little sweep, that's all you need, and then render it out. Okay? The biggest thing I want to see here is that they're interacting with an item. They're picking it up and then they're interacting with it, then putting it back down. Okay? So it could be anything. He could pick up the barbell and just, or dumbbell, whatever that is, and then set it down. He could pick up the wine glass and set it down. I don't remember who did it last semester, I think. Someone had him like pick up the wine glass and drink it, and then he passed out. That was pretty funny. Here are some coins. So these ones are a little bit trickier to do because they're coins. So you're not going to grab them like you would the coffee cup. You would grab them with your pinchers, right? And the same thing with the wine glass. That's why I have different objects here, is you grab them all differently. So the wine glass, you may grab it with just your fingers like this and then drink it, right, if you're fancy. Or maybe you're grabbing it from the bowl if you want to heat it up, I guess. All right. So also make sure you're saving your stuff into the correct name. I haven't saved this at all. Pick up. There we go. Okay. So you can get pretty fancy with these, but just keep in mind, do the simple stuff first, and then you can add on top of that. Okay? Any questions on the pickup? Cool.